Hey, so now guys, we're gonna do something pretty awesome, hopefully, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna recreate the containers shader that I had in my doc environment. I don't know if you guys seen it, but it's really not that important. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm going to try and input, an asset over here that we can preview stuff on. And like the main thing to note here is that it should have vertex colors in there already. Yeah, there you go. These were done in Max, and all those containers are sort of separate elements. And yeah, I just went ahead and colored them to get some vertex colors that we're just going to use right now. And this texture that we have here, let me actually give you a closer look. Yep, there you go. We have 3 channels. And it's pretty simple. Channel number 1, grayscale of the texture, which is okay. Channel number 2, it is the mask for everything that we don't want to be colored in the paint color that we're going to use for the rest of the containers. And number 3 is basically the dirt. And I think there is nothing in the alpha. Yeah, that's it. So we're going to use this one texture to create a lot of variety with our containers, and we're also going to use another texture, which is this. It's a water effects texture that I used, and basically just has some random water stuff, like as you can see, splashes and whatnot, and some water. And in the alpha channel, the mask for the drips coming down the surface of the containers, because this is going to be another cool addition. We're not just going to try and leverage the vertex colors that we have here, but we're going to go all the way and make water rolling down the surface like it's pouring rain. So it's going to look pretty badass. But I mean, first things first, and we got to probably set up our colors going. So for that, I'm just going to grab a multiply node. And I'm just gonna multiply our grayscale with the vertex colors. And now as we preview node on mesh, you see that we already have some sort of variety going on that we wanted. But now here's the thing: we could add some transitions here. For example, I like to, from time to time, make use of the desaturation node. Just something to give you control here, and just to sort of give you an idea of what you can do with this stuff. I mean, you not necessarily have to do everything like that when you're building like a proper shader, but for example, there we go. Now we're just gonna separate this stuff into sort of 2 sections, one desaturation, and we could probably add a color tint just for giggles, you know. So yeah, I'm just gonna grab a constant 3 vector, convert it to a parameter, just in case you want to tint all of that stuff. You can have a tint here. That's all it is. For example, we would want it to be like slightly bluish or something, and just turn our values all the way, and that's it. And we're just gonna multiply this with this. And the reason I'm actually going to be desaturating this thing again for the mask here is because you guys remember that we had a mask for like all those, whatever it is, little I don't know, handles or something, and sheets of paper and stuff like that. We actually don't want them to be colored with vertex colors. So we want them to be separate, but I want them to retain sort of the brightness that we assign through the vertex colors. That's why I'll be desaturating here all the way. And one thing that, let me just call these details desaturate, because now they're one and the same with the one up top, and we want this one to be called just color desaturate, because we want them to be different. And since both of them are parameters and that they're having the same name, they're technically the same thing. And well, I cloned the one over here just to repeat it quickly. So yeah, we had to sort of make that separation between them. But now that we have this guy, we can choose to have a detail color for that stuff. So let's just grab this again and grab the color. make it something just sort of orange, just to have it in a different spectrum, you know, to sort of contrast it. And then just call this one detail color. I hope that should do. But now let's just go and grab a linear interpolate. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting that it's not just lerp. And now you'll hopefully see why I was doing all of that stuff. So yeah, now let me just plug it in here and try to preview it. And yeah, let me think. Maybe we should try and revert those guys. Nope, it was definitely right the way it was before. So yeah, you see that we got some sort of difference here with our stuff, the details that we wanted to separate. And it is good. We're getting some text and stuff like that, like on the sides, which is not really. Yeah, let's give it like a blue, more of a bluish tint, I think, because it seems that most of our stuff is a sort of a warmish color, which is actually quite weird. But no, this is our tint and it's somehow warm. Oh yeah, because we probably repeated it also. And this is not very nice. Okay, let's just we'll keep it desaturated for now, like altogether. Let's see how that works out. Oh yeah, there you go. We have our stuff and we have our like candles and whatever it is, those sticks and some text that are not of the same color, which is kind of cool already. But I think we might also want to add some dirt in here. So let's just name this a linear interpolate. Let's just put it in the comment. Color plus detail, just so we know what's going on. And this side, let's just comment it out because it'll be easier, you know, to hunt comment. I'm sorry. Let's call it the detail. And for the other side, we're gonna just go ahead and make it color, just so we know what we're dealing with, you know. And we should probably move that a bit to the side, maybe even all the way down here, because we're gonna have dirt now as well. So it's probably gonna be like the third sort of you know, box. So before changing the color, let's just call it dirt color. Okay, dirt color. And for the alpha, let's just make it dirt intensity, because we'll just multiply our mask that we have here with our intensity value for linear interpolate. So that way we can control how sort of bright is our dirt. And for dirt, let's just go into something reddish here, or even brownish. I mean, let's obviously make it darker. And maybe something like this, a bit more saturated. That should do for now. But now that you see we have our color and we're not really plugging it into anywhere, that's because we're going to grab our linear interpolate at this point. And yeah, we're just going to plug this guy in here. And then we're going to plug this mask. Oh no, we're going to plug this mask over here. I'm sorry. And we're going to plug the color into the second one. And let's go and check it out on some something that's sort of a cold color, so we'd have a better contrast and see if we've done it right. Well, we definitely got something reddish going on, but it doesn't look all that visible. And this is where our little, our little parameter comes in handy, because as you can see, as soon as we crank it up all the way to 8, well, I mean, it's sort of too oversaturated for now, or too rusty, but if we just keep it at 5, for example, well, we get something. I mean, you can all obviously play with that. Okay, let's make it a 4. But for now, just to, you know, sort of show you guys that what can you do, that this should do the trick. And there you go. This should be our dirt. Let me just comment it out once again. Dirt. And I mean, at this point, technically, you've got yourself a whole slew of, you know, containers which have some sort of variety to them. And oops, sorry, my bad, guys. And I mean, we're keeping it pretty simple here, as you can see. But yeah, just to give you an idea of the reuse you can get out of just one single texture, because all of those guys were made with just one texture and it's repeating across all the surfaces, so you can get, like pretty high and nice texturation. You don't have to go really low res and do 10 different colors of containers on a single texture. And yeah, this is pretty cheap. Let me just put it at that, and let's just plug it into diffuse, stop previewing it, and go out of the emissive, and yeah, there you go. And you know what would be cool, actually? I think something that we should do right now is do this specular. Specular should be nice. And for that, I think a good idea would be to sort of separate our dirt and everything else in the specular. So let's just try and do that. Let's grab the color that we have here coming out and sort of, add some contrast to it, as you would when you're making a specular out of diffuse, because we're using just one texture. So let me just grab a parameter here. Let me just copy it and rename it spec contrast, and then just contrast it up quite a bit. And after that, we probably should multiply the guy by something, because I mean, after we applied power of 3 to it, it should be pretty dark at places. So let's just set it, I don't know, to like 500. Probably too much, but maybe not. It depends. But right now, let's just plug it in, see how it goes. Plug it into spec. Yeah, I see. Yeah, by the way, I sort of wanted to retain the color that we have in the containers. That's why I grab it all the way from the color, because it gives you that sort of shiny metallic look that we can at least try to simulate here and not just go grayscale all the way. I mean, it's obviously up to you when you're making your stuff, but okay, let's try and crank it up all the way to like 750. So there you go. Now you can get like a visible highlight, and let's just say that looks better. I mean, at least I like it more. But now let's desaturate this guy. And for desaturation, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna grab a desaturate, and well, it's obviously like the colors are too garish, so let's just do spec desaturate and set it to something like 0.75. See how that goes. Yeah, we have to plug this guy into here. Now, yeah, I see that we get this shiny metallic, basically specular reflections, which is kind of nice. We can just keep it at that for now. Oh yeah, but we should probably, just for the sake of it, try and separate the dirt altogether, just because it's sort of not supposed to be shiny. And I mean, we're just doing an exercise here, so I don't think that any bad can come out of it. So let's just grab a constant, which would be a 0, grab a linear interpolate, and use the same mask that we have for our dirt. And that's it. Basically, you see where we had our dirt color, now there's just black, which means 0 specularity, which seems okay. I mean, yeah, we don't really see that much difference, but at least as an exercise, hopefully that would be good enough. And maybe we could try and play with the specular power. I mean, this is something I would just do if I was doing, a material, just so I know that I have all the handles exposed, and in case I want to reuse it later on. Let's just try a wider highlight. Oops, sorry. It's getting nuts. A wider highlight. As you see, I put a number of 4 in there. Wow, that's really bright right now. Okay, yeah, let's just return it to like 12 or something, and that should do the trick for now. But this is just a control that you probably want to have when you're working with this stuff. Let me just call it spec plus dirt, so we know what we're mixing here, and I'm just gonna comment it out as as spec. So we have our very simple material. You can see we got a specularity, and things got a lot livelier, which is always nice. But yeah, this is something you'd have at that stage. And okay, so now it's time to finally do the dripping water. And to start it off, we'll go up here and get our texture coordinate thingy going on. And as usual, let's find ourselves some multiply and a constant parameter. And what we're going to do here is we're actually going to offset this texture with itself, again, because the alpha has the sort of streaks of water coming down the surface. But then again, we also are going to offset the UVs by another texture that is in the blue channel, which is just some watery stuff going on. So yeah, first and foremost, we gotta tile the distortion. So let's name this parameter distortion tile, and let's set it up to something that is not that huge, like 5, for example. And this is just the very basic setup. And after that, we want obviously our water coming down to animate. And in order to do that, let's just grab a panner node, because yeah, that's the most obvious thing. And I mean, we can just make it sort of run down, so down in the y coordinate, obviously, because we want it to go vertically. So yeah, let's just do that. Let's plug in the coordinate, leave the time empty. Technically, we could make a parameter out of that too, but I don't know how much do we need that right now. But yeah, now we're gonna copy our multiply and distortion tile parameter and change it to distortion intensity. Here we'll basically specify how much do we want to offset the UVs of the water streaks that we're gonna have down there, and we grab our blue channel because yeah, the blue channel is supposed to be this watery, cloudy texture kind of thing. And yeah, after that, I guess we have to now tile the original UVs basically. Once again, let's copy them. And by original, I mean the streaks themselves. So here we just choose this parameter and call it water tiling now. And let's just bump it up all the way to 20, for example. And after that, what you do here, if you multiply the UVs, you just end up tiling them, and we don't want that. We just want to sort of add to it, which basically, yeah, so sort of warrants the use of the add node. So yeah, let's just plug it in and preview it right here. And it's a mess, but at least you can see that this stuff offsets and everything. Oh, hey, it's got some sort of a horizontal movement, but we'll see how it looks in the final result, basically. So at this point, I guess now we want to just to control how much how visible it is, basically. So let's do that. Let's call this parameter water intensity, and let's just multiply that. And you know what would be a cool trick to make it more prominent in the spec, just because you get that much more variety visually, and it's supposed to look nice. So let's grab our add node over here, and let's just, oh yeah, you see what I did wrong here? I actually plugged in the whole color texture, and I just want my alpha, and it is really intense because it's like 5. Maybe we should lower it to something like, I don't know, 0.25. And let's just see how that works. Let's add this to Specular and plug it into Specular here, and then just stop previewing for a while. And now you're supposed to be seeing that there is something going on. But we want to lower the distortion because it seems like it's a bit of an overkill. So let's go right here and change it to 2. So we get something closer to sort of the original streaks. And it seems like panning direction is a bit off. So yeah, let me see what's wrong with that. And yeah, the thing here, and it's actually quite important, I guess I just go to the asset browser and show you guys something to specify. Well, basically here's the mesh that we're using, right? And we have this sort of unwrap for the well, for the diffuse texture. But if we go here, we actually have our light map UVs, but they are also laid out in such a manner that they're all sort of top-down facing, you know, like they're properly aligned so that if we pan a texture from top to bottom, it will sort of represent the real deal the way it is in the world. So what we want to do here in order for that stuff to move accordingly is we want to switch that up. We want the coordinate index to be 1. And now you see that it's sort of going to go down. And same for this stuff, obviously. So once we do that, there you go. You see there's water flowing down the surface of our containers. And let's just crank up the intensity to make it a bit more visible. And we can always lower the intensity. So we can make it 1. We can make it 0.2. Now you see it's like, yeah, those sort of little streaks, and they don't look very convincing. I mean, obviously you can see the tiling and everything, but if you assume that it's like pouring rain and everything, then a view like that, let me just get a preview a bit bigger. And I mean, don't forget you got all kinds of effects going on, but this thing would work. I mean, that would look sufficiently good, you know, and this is obviously like a pretty basic implementation just to give you an idea to use the UV offset and how you can use the second UV set to actually sort of aid some world space movements and stuff like that, how you can basically make your light map UVs a bit more multi-purpose. But yeah, you can always make it more complex. I mean, that's what I mean. You can actually like offset a normal map and have a little bit of a reflection texture on it, so you get a bit more of a volumetric effect. But this should give you just a decent enough idea, I guess. And we also want to add it to the diffuse. That's an important point. And we also probably we want to control the intensity, so let me just copy those two. And let me rename the parameter right away. So here we'll have diffuse water intensity. And then I just get it here. And let's make it even less. Because right now, as you can see, we only get the movement in our spec. So places like that would be remarkably dry, which didn't make much sense. So this is where this stuff comes in. And yeah, let's multiply our intensity here, our water over here, and then we just add them. Let me grab an add node, and as you can see, like that, and plug it into the diffuse. And now we get a bit more of a movement going on, you know, so now even if there is no lighting in there, you can still see the, well, there is some slight movement. And I guess since it is pretty dark, we can probably crank it up to 0.25. So now it looks, you know, sufficiently realistically wet enough. And maybe just, you know, tone it down a bit for the spec one, because it will add to the diffuse one. So yeah, this should look more realistic. I mean, you probably don't want to go like that close to it, but I'm just thinking if you put a normal map on top, I think it would still work very nicely. And yeah, I think at that point, you know what, we can just sort of comment it out for the ease of use. Just call it water and sort of mark this, that this is spec plus water, and this is diffuse plus water. So now it should be pretty self-explanatory, and at this point I think our material is pretty much ready. Yeah, that's the way it was in my dock environment basically. And I mean, it was pretty sort of, you know, economic of resources, and this is just one of the techniques where there's no normal maps, and you just use one texture for spec and for all the coloring and basically for diffuse. And on top of that, we just used a single mask well, mix maps, whatever you'd like to call it, texture that also provided for this neat dynamic effect that obviously brings a lot more life into this otherwise pretty generic and stale object. And obviously, I mean, this sort of chunk of shader code is reusable and you can just plug it into any kind of assets that you have. Just make sure that your UV layer 2 shells are aligned in the right direction, and yeah, you should be good. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it, guys, and onwards to the next chapters.